Get your hood rat hands off the wheel before I break 'em. Officer Dawson ripped Alexis Ward's door open, metal shrieking as he dragged her onto the gravel shoulder. Riker shoved her forward, his palm crushing the back of her neck as he muttered, "Women like you don't belong behind the wheel of cars like this." Dawson's taser buzzed inches from her, the electric snap louder than the passing traffic. "Don't look away," he hissed, gripping her chin. "I want you to remember who owns this road." When he cocked his fist to strike, Alexis's punch connected first, sharp and explosive, freezing every witness mid-breath. None of them knew they'd just swung on a Delta Force commander. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Commander Alexis Ward eased her SUV down the winding Georgia highway, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows through the pine trees. The drive from her mother's house usually brought her peace, a rare moment of quiet after years of classified missions. But today, something felt off. In her rearview mirror, 2 patrol cars had been following her for the past 15 minutes, hanging back just enough to make their presence known. Her trained instincts kicked in as she maintained a steady speed, hands relaxed but ready at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. The cruisers suddenly accelerated, their engines roaring as they split apart, one cutting in front while the other boxed her in from behind. The lead car swerved sharply, forcing her to brake hard. Her SUV lurched to a stop on the shoulder, gravel crunching under the tires. "Keep your hands where we can see them," Deputy Dawson's voice boomed through a megaphone. He emerged from the lead car, hand already on his holster. Deputy Riker approached from the other side, his face twisted in a sneer. Alexis lowered her window just 3 inches, enough to communicate but maintain protection. "Is there a problem, officers?" Dawson's face reddened as he stormed up to her window. "When a woman like you drives a car this nice, it's stolen. Get out before we remove you ourselves." Her jaw tightened, but she kept her voice steady. "This is my vehicle. I have registration. And did I ask you to talk?" Dawson grabbed her door handle, yanking it open. "Out now." Years of combat training screamed at her to react, but Alexis forced herself to move slowly, deliberately. She stepped out with her hands raised slightly, her military-honed senses cataloging every detail. Dawson's aggressive stance, Riker's position behind her, the third officer now approaching from the backup car. "Face the vehicle, legs spread." Dawson grabbed her shoulder, shoving her hard against the SUV. The impact knocked the breath from her lungs. "This is unnecessary," she stated calmly. "I'm a military officer." Riker's knee slammed into her ribs, cutting off her words. "Shut your mouth. You people always have excuses." The search was nothing more than an excuse for brutality. Rough hands patted her down with intentional force, lingering inappropriately. Alexis's combat instincts flared with each violation, but she remained still, analyzing their positions, waiting. "Not so tough now, are you?" Dawson twisted her arm behind her back, pushing it up until pain shot through her shoulder. "Time to learn some respect." The third officer circled around, cracking his knuckles. "These types never learn respect until you teach it to them." Alexis felt the cold metal of a taser press against her neck. Dawson's breath was hot on her ear as he growled, "Maybe this will help the lesson stick." "You really don't want to do that," she said softly, her tone carrying a weight of absolute certainty. Dawson laughed. "Oh yeah? Watch me." The taser crackled to life. In that instant, everything changed. Before the electrodes could make contact, Alexis moved. Her elbow shot backward with crushing force, catching Dawson in the solar plexus. As he doubled over, she pivoted, using his momentum to throw him face first into the SUV's hood. Riker lunged, reaching for his baton. Alexis dropped low, sweeping his legs out with a practiced move that sent him crashing to the asphalt. The third officer charged in, but she was already moving. She caught his wild punch, redirected his energy, and sent him flipping over her hip. He landed hard, the impact driving the air from his lungs. Dawson staggered up, blood streaming from his nose. He grabbed for his weapon, but Alexis was faster. 2 precise strikes, one to his wrist, another to his knee, left him howling on the ground. Riker tried to get her in a chokehold from behind. She responded with fluid efficiency, gripping his arm and throwing her weight forward. He flew over her shoulder, landing on the hood with a heavy thud that left a deep dent in the metal. The third officer had managed to get to his feet, but the fear in his eyes showed he knew he was outmatched. He rushed her anyway, driven by desperation and wounded pride. Alexis met her charge with controlled violence, a combination of strikes that left him sprawled beside his colleagues. In less than 30 seconds, all three officers lay groaning on the pavement. None had managed to land a single effective blow. Alexis stood straight, her breathing calm and measured, as the sound of approaching sirens filled the air. She didn't run, she didn't hide, she stood her ground, knowing this confrontation was far from over. The wailing sirens grew louder, but she remained perfectly still, her military bearing evident in every line of her posture. Dawson tried to push himself up, spitting blood onto the asphalt. You're going to regret this." "No," Alexis replied quietly, watching the first backup units appear on the horizon. "I'm not the one who's going to have regrets about today." The sun was sinking lower now, painting the sky in deep oranges and reds. The same Georgia highway that had promised a peaceful drive home had become a battlefield, one that would soon draw more combatants. As the sirens grew closer, Alexis stood ready, knowing that this was only the beginning of a war she never wanted, but would not back down from. Lieutenant Briggs's cruiser screeched to a halt at the scene, its headlights cutting through the growing dusk. The car door slammed with enough force to make the younger officers flinch. Briggs emerged like a storm cloud, his face purple with rage as he surveyed his injured men scattered across the asphalt. "What in God's name happened here?" he bellowed, his eyes locked onto Alexis, who stood perfectly still, her military bearing unchanged. Dawson pushed himself to his knees, still wheezing. She attacked us, Lieutenant. We were conducting a routine stop and—" "Routine?" Alexis's voice cut through the air like steel. "You dragged me from my vehicle without cause, assaulted me, and attempted to tase me." Briggs stormed toward her, his hand white-knuckled around his baton. "You shut your mouth. I've got 3 good officers down because of you." "Good officers don't assault civilians," Alexis replied evenly. The baton came whistling through the air without warning. Most people would have been caught completely off guard, but Alexis had seen the tension in his shoulder, the slight shift in his weight. She stepped inside the arc of his swing, deflecting the baton with her forearm while staying just out of his reach. Briggs snarled, launching into a series of wild strikes. Each attack met empty air as Alexis moved with practiced efficiency. She didn't attack, she simply wasn't where his baton tried to be. Her control was perfect, her movements precise. "Stand still," Briggs roared, his face growing redder with each failed attempt. "Like your officers made me stand still." Alexis's voice remained calm, even as she redirected another blow. "While they kicked me, searched me, threatened me." A small crowd had gathered on the roadside. Cell phones recorded everything, their screens glowing in the deepening twilight. Briggs noticed them and his fury doubled. "Get those phones. Confiscate every device. This is an active crime scene." Officers who had arrived as backup moved toward the witnesses, but their attention kept dragging back to Alexis. They'd seen what she'd done to their colleagues. None wanted to be next. Briggs launched another attack, this time aiming for her knees. Alexis caught the baton mid-swing. For a moment, they stood locked together, his raw anger against her disciplined strength. Then she twisted, using his own momentum to throw him stumbling forward. The baton clattered to the pavement. She could have ended him there, one strike to the back of his head, another to his kidney. He'd left himself completely open. Instead, she stepped back, hands raised slightly. "That's enough, Lieutenant. We both know this stop was illegal." "Illegal?" Briggs straightened up, trying to mask his heavy breathing. "The only thing illegal here is assaulting police officers. Take her down now." The backup officers hesitated, looking at their fallen colleagues, then at Alexis's calm stance. Fear warred with duty on their faces. "I won't resist," Alexis said clearly, keeping her hands visible. "But everyone here knows what really happened." 2 officers finally approached, their movements stiff with tension. They grabbed her arms roughly, but she didn't fight as they pulled them behind her back. The handcuffs clicked with unnecessary force. "You're under arrest for assault on police officers, resisting arrest, and attempted murder," Briggs spat, retrieving his baton. He stepped close, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You have no idea what you've just started." As they led her to a patrol car, Alexis watched Briggs directing his men. "Secure the scene. I want every phone,
every camera and someone find out what happened to our dash cam footage. The drive to the county station was tense. Alexis sat silently in the back, observing everything through the cage partition. The officers up front kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, their nervousness evident in every jerky movement. At the station, she was processed with deliberate slowness. Each step seemed designed to maximize discomfort and humiliation. Through it all, she maintained her composure, gathering intelligence. She noted which officers avoided eye contact, which ones seemed uncomfortable with the situation, and which ones followed Briggs's lead without question. From her position in booking, she could see Briggs in his office, orchestrating the cover-up. Officers cycled in and out, each leaving with specific tasks. One carried out the dashcam hard drives, another began typing what would undoubtedly be a falsified report. Computer systems acting up, an officer.
We're still processing the paperwork. These things take time. Fascinating, Harper replied, especially since you've already leaked details to the press. I saw the morning news segment about the dangerous veteran who attacked your officers. She turned to Alexis, speaking quietly but clearly. This county has a history of protecting abusive officers. 8 similar incidents in the past year alone, all buried, but they've never tried to frame someone with your credentials. The dash camera footage will clear this up, Alexis said. Harper's smile was grim. Let me guess. Technical difficulties? Equipment malfunction? Briggs cut in. Real shame, but we have 3 officers' sworn statements about her unprovoked attack. 3 identical statements, I'm sure, Harper replied. We'll be requesting federal oversight. The pattern of civil rights violations in this department is too clear to ignore. While Harper argued with Briggs about bail conditions, Alexis observed the station's operations. She noted which officers handled evidence, which ones managed the computers, who had access to the security footage. Every detail was valuable intelligence. Through the station's windows, she could see news vans gathering. A reporter was already doing a live stand-up, gesturing toward the building. On the break room television, a local anchor read from a statement. Sources within the department describe the suspect as mentally unstable, possibly suffering from PTSD. They're pushing hard to control the narrative, Harper muttered, returning with release papers. But they made mistakes. The timing of the report submissions, the missing footage, the escalation of charges, it all shows coordination. We can use that. The bail process took another 2 hours. Every signature was scrutinized, every form double-checked. Briggs watched it all, his presence a clear message of intimidation. Finally, Alexis stepped out into the harsh Georgia sun. News cameras swung toward her, but Harper stepped in front, blocking their shots. No comments at this time. Any questions can be directed to my office. The drive home felt surreal. Every patrol car they passed seemed to slow down, officers craning their necks to look. Harper's words rang in Alexis's mind. They'll try to isolate you, make you feel watched. Don't let them. Her mother's neighborhood was buzzing with unusual activity. Neighbors stood in clusters, conversation dying as Alexis's car passed. A news van idled at the corner, the reporter perking up at her approach. I'll have my team start building the case, Harper said, as they pulled up to Alexis's house. We'll need to move fast before they destroy more evidence. Are you sure you don't want to stay somewhere else? This is my home, Alexis replied simply. I won't be driven out. Harper nodded understanding. Call me immediately if they try anything. And Commander, be careful. Men like Briggs are most dangerous when they're scared. Alexis walked up her front path, aware of the cameras watching, the neighbors peeking through curtains. Her phone buzzed continuously, news alerts, social media mentions, messages from unknown numbers. The local station's website already had a headline, Violent Veteran Attacks Officers During Traffic Stop. Inside, her house was quiet, untouched. The silence felt like a refuge after the chaos of the jail. She closed the door, shutting out the world's noise, but her phone kept vibrating. Another alert. Police union demands maximum charges in officer assault case. Alexis placed the phone face down on her counter. They wanted her to feel overwhelmed,
isolated, afraid. But they didn't understand who they were dealing with. She'd faced worse odds in places where there were no rules, no cameras, no legal recourse. Here, at least there was a system, corrupt as it might be, that could be made to work. She looked at her reflection in the kitchen window, seeing the soldier she'd always been. No, she wouldn't be intimidated. Not by Briggs, not by his corrupt department, not by their media manipulation. They had started this fight thinking she was an easy target. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The morning sky hung low and threatening as Alexis backed out of her driveway. News vans had finally cleared out, but she spotted a patrol car parked 2 blocks down, poorly hidden behind a neighbor's oak tree. They weren't even trying to be subtle anymore. Her phone buzzed with a text from Harper. "Meet at office ASAP. Federal contact agreed to hear us." Alexis checked her mirrors, noting another cruiser that had pulled out behind 3 turns back. They were getting sloppy with their surveillance, which meant they were getting desperate. The parking garage near Harper's downtown office loomed ahead, its concrete levels rising like a fortress in the gray morning light. Alexis chose the 3rd level, away from the scattered cars on the lower floors. As she pulled into a space, her trained instincts registered multiple details: the echo of boots on concrete, the reflection of movement in parked car windows, the deliberate positioning of vehicles near the exit ramp. She stepped out of her car, keys in hand. "I know you're here," she called out, her voice carrying across the empty level. "Let's skip the theatrics." 4 deputies emerged from behind pillars and vehicles. She recognized Deputy Slate from booking, his young face tight with nervous energy. The others were older, harder looking. All carried batons, and their stance made it clear this wasn't an official visit. "Lieutenant said you might cause problems," the largest deputy growled, tapping his baton against his leg. "Said we should make sure you understand how things work around here." "Before you meet those feds," another added, circling to her left. "Accidents happen in parking garages all the time, especially to people who don't know when to keep quiet." Alexis remained still, analyzing distances, positions, angles. They had planned this poorly, too spread out, too focused on blocking exits rather than coordinating their attack. Amateur mistakes that would cost them. "Last chance to walk away," she offered, knowing they wouldn't take it. Slate rushed in first, eager to prove himself. His baton swing was wide, telegraphed. Alexis stepped inside his reach, redirecting his momentum into a parked sedan. The impact dented the door and left him gasping. The others attacked together, but without coordination. Alexis moved between concrete pillars, using the structure itself as both shield and weapon. A baton struck concrete where her head had been. She grabbed the weapon, twisting it and its wielder into another deputy's charge. They collided hard, cursing and stumbling. Alexis seized the moment to disable Slate, who was trying to stand. A precise strike to his knee dropped him back down, followed by a controlled chop to the nerve cluster in his shoulder. He crumpled, conscious but unable to rejoin the fight. "Federal assault now," one deputy snarled, drawing a taser. "You're just making it worse." Alexis caught his wrist as the taser sparked, directing the electrodes into his partner's chest. The man convulsed and dropped. Before the taser-wielding deputy could react, she slammed his arm against a pillar, sending the weapon clattering across the concrete. The largest deputy bull-rushed her, trying to pin her against a car. Alexis used his momentum, adding to it with a hip throw that sent him skidding across the rough surface. He rolled to his feet, spitting blood, and charged again. This time, she met him with his fallen partner's baton, striking pressure points in rapid succession. He went down hard, clutching his paralyzed arm. The remaining deputy backed away, fumbling for his radio. Alexis closed the distance in 2 steps, trapped his hand before he could key the mic, and disarmed him with a wrist lock that left him kneeling in pain. "Stay down," she ordered, applying just enough pressure to make her point clear, "unless you want to explain to the medics exactly how you dislocated your own shoulder." The garage echoed with groans and ragged breathing. Alexis retrieved her phone, documenting the scene methodically, the weapons they dropped, the positions of the deputies, the damage to vehicles. She sent everything to Harper with a quick text. Attempted assault in parking garage. 4 deputies need cleanup. Slate tried to speak through pain-clenched teeth. You don't understand. He'll kill us if we don't stop. Then you should have thought harder about who you work for, Alexis replied, checking each deputy's condition. None had life-threatening injuries, but they wouldn't be swinging batons again anytime soon. Footsteps echoed from the lower level, civilians drawn by the noise. Someone was already on the phone with emergency services, their voice carrying. There's fighting in the parking garage. Send police. Alexis collected the dropped weapons, arranging them clearly for photographs. More evidence of their attempted ambush, more proof of the department's desperation. The first hints of sirens wailed in the distance as Alexis walked calmly toward the exit ramp. The deputies remained where they had fallen, perhaps finally understanding the magnitude of their mistake. Their groans and curses followed her down the concrete passages. She moved steadily, unhurried, her breathing controlled. The garage's shadows gave way to gray daylight. The sirens grew louder, approaching from multiple directions. Soon, this level would be swarming with first responders and more of Briggs's corrupted force. But she had accomplished what she needed. The attack was documented, the deputies were neutralized without permanent injury, and, most importantly, they had proven how far the department would go to silence her. The rising wind carried the sound of more sirens as Alexis emerged onto the street. Red and blue lights reflected across nearby buildings. She took out her phone to update Harper on her delayed arrival, her finger